Ever wonder what it would be like to just put a backpack on and go to like a third world country? Just go traveling around everywhere. You hear so many scary stories, and there is some stuff that happens. I mean, you can get ripped off, you can get lost, and there's a lot of things that I think you want to take in consideration, especially when you're a 20-something girl traveling all by yourself on other parts of the planet. This is a story of my sister, Katy Bab, taking off and on her adventures and the hacks that she has to save you from getting ripped off, getting hotels, cabs, and things to know when you're just traveling out and abroad. Let's get into it. Welcome to another edition of Up and In It. I'm your host, Katy Babashoff, and if you're new here, welcome as well. And if you're wondering what the show's about, it is dedicated to creating a lifestyle design that improves quality of life for people and planet, exploring alternatives to the daily grind through liberation and independence, moving you from surviving to thriving and living life raw. All right, guys, today's a very special one. I have my sister visiting me, Katy Bab from Washington. She's been all over the place. She's got all kinds of stories to say. If you're wondering what it's like and you want to know some hacks of and how to travel safely and some of the scary things, I think there's a lot of stories out there where people make it out to where it's this bad, horrific thing. And she tells in her stories today, there was a couple things that were pretty damn scary, but there was also some beautiful things. So it's like anywhere in the world, there's always bad stuff that could happen. There's always good stuff. So take in consideration if you're thinking about traveling around or just curious about what it's like. This is a 20-something-year-old girl traveling around. So here's her story. Hope you guys enjoy. And I do ask you guys, if you like this sort of thing, consider subscribing and hit the like button only if you do like it. So without further ado, Katy Babs, my sister, right now.
Clean your eyeballs.
I have something itchy in me.
That's your soul. It's itching to get out.
Oh my God, what were we talking about? Like where?
You were bringing up traveling.
Yeah.
And stuff like that with me, the craziness that I do.
This is the illustrious,
the
wonderful, the spontaneous Hiki.
Pinkies out, everyone.
Traveling around, like what was the first thing? You said you were in Washington and then you went to Belize?
Well, I went to Belize and Guatemala before that.
I
was living in California, and I was looking into Peace Corps or, I'm not religious, but missionary work.
Yeah.
There's not easy ways to find those kind of outlets. And a friend mentioned the Wolf Foundation, which is World Organization of Organic Farming. Mm-hmm. And so it's all related about farming, essentially, but then it branches out to other things. And there's other programs like it, but that's the one I found that I liked. That was easy, user-friendly, easy to research and find if it's legit, and reviews and all that kind of stuff. So basically that is a program where it's almost like you create like a Facebook profile / resume, like Monster Jobs or something like that. So it's like a fusion of that. You make a profile, you tell people about what you do, more work related than just your personal interest.
Yeah.
And then the farms have their profiles. And so they've got pictures of the farm, they got reviews from people that have volunteered there, they write down a description of what they're looking for, what times a year they need you, all that kind of stuff. And then you basically start contacting them, and then they contact you back. You email, correspond, figure out if you're going to be a good fit on both parties, and then you make your plans from there, which with the Wolf Foundation, you got to pay for your flight. But otherwise, you're living on the premises of the place, the farm that you're at. You work about 5 days a week. They provide you food, basic food, breakfast, lunch, dinner. And then on the weekends you're off, which you can hang out at the place you're at, or you can go and wander off, go be a tourist, whatever, stuff like that. So I did that in Guatemala for a month, and then Belize for a month.
What was Guatemala like?
Guatemala was a lot more humanitarian. It was a Mormon woman, actually, but she did not impose her religion on the situation. She basically built a school, employed teachers for the local kids at a small town, and then built a building that was like an after-school place where we had a garden. We had a cook that would make food for the kids after school. There was a teacher that would come in, a Guatemalan Spanish-speaking teacher that would come in, teach them extracurricular stuff. We would teach them English a little bit sometimes.
So you had to teach, so there was a teacher that built a house?
Well, basically a wealthy woman that wanted to help out, built all this stuff, and then employed people. So they had Guatemalan local teachers, so it helped them get jobs. Yeah. They had a cook that they paid. They had a maintenance guy that they paid to take care of the land. They had games and stuff, soccer balls, jump ropes, puzzles, books.
Cool.
So the kids would after school just come over and hang out. We'd make food for them.
Yeah.
We'd tend to the garden that grows the food that we feed them. We had chickens, we had all this kind of stuff. So we would just do all this extra stuff for them. We'd often give them, as I was saying earlier, formula is a hard thing to get out there for the moms.
The baby formula?
Yeah, they don't have a postal system out there. So you can't even from America, from the U.S., be like, well, I'm going to send a case of formula. You can't do it.
Yeah.
They don't have a means to get there unless you're going to buy it, fly it over there on your flight, and then physically go drive the vehicle and drop it off. Like, there's
what
no
happened?
way.
What was up with the women's breast milk? Like, they had to have formula? It's like some of them
Well,
had
a lot
troubles,
of them, because they're poor, they don't have, and they have a lot of kids, they don't have enough, or the child is maybe born prematurely, malnourished. They don't have to have formula, but it was something that was helpful with the situations that they were in. The women weren't getting a lot of food for themselves, so they didn't have a lot of milk, production sometimes, or they had a health problem. They don't have good health care out there. So it's not like every woman needed formula or that they wouldn't breastfeed. They all breastfeed, but it was just like they do anything that they have resources for. But it was a nice thing to have, like when they had, someone was born with twins, or they had a baby that was still on milk, and whatever, mom had a problem with production. Sometimes women have trouble producing milk, that can happen even out there. But so that was the thing, that is another interesting thing too that I found, was that a lot of these poor people have a lot of kids. And yes, there's not much access to birth control, but also it's like, well, you got to feed all these kids though.
How many?
And most of them had probably 6 kids. Yeah. Around 6 kids. Not many had less than 3.
Yeah.
3 was like, oh wow, they only have 3 kids. You know what I mean? That's like if crazy. It was less than 3 like that, I just didn't see that.
Why the hell would you populate so much when you're that?
Yeah. Poor? And they have to pay for school there every year. Your kid, is going to public school, and you got to pay like $400, and it's in Quetzales is their money. Mm-hmm. But say $400 US for this one kid for 1 year, and you're very poor, you don't have a lot of money, and then you have 5 kids, so it's $400 per kid. There's no deal on, well, you have more kids, so it's less. Now the government's going to help you, or we're going to give you a discount. No, every child, it's $400. So they very often have their eldest son, they have him go all the way through school, and then he takes over the family farm or business, and then takes care of the other kids until the girls get married, and then their husbands take care of them, or whatever,
Lucky him.
Yeah.
So
Lucky him, but then also poor him, because now he's burdened with, oh, you want to be a painter? Too bad. You're taking over the farm, and you're taking care of your 4 siblings and your parents, and this is going to be your life. So it's like...
So what happened so you're in California, and this is where you found through the Wolfing Foundation?
Yeah, because it's just online.
So you contacted these people, they were like, hey, sounds cool, come over to our farm, our place, and then you just got a plane ticket, and you went, got off the airplane, and what'd you see? What was it like?
When I got off the airplane, because it was also a small town, it was hard to get to, so I literally had to find a taxi, which they have taxi drivers at the airport right when you get out, which most of them are trying to, give you a bad deal because they know you're a tourist fresh off the plane. But I didn't have much choice. I didn't know where to go. It was all Spanish speaking. I speak Spanish. I was better then than I am now, but I didn't speak Spanish very, very well, So I got a taxi into a smaller town, and it was hours away from Guatemala City where the airport was. And then I ended up taking what they call a chicken bus, which are old school buses that they put on basically big mountain tires, huge, almost like monster truck looking tires. And they paint them all crazy colors and stuff, but they're like a bus system. Yeah. But a lot of the towns and villages are far apart off mountain roads. Yeah. So they just go crazy and load up. Literally, people are packed in on the seats. They're standing. They're pressed against the window. Yeah. They pack those things and then drive people around.
With chickens and stuff too? And
I tried to ask why exactly it was called a chicken bus. The answer that made the most sense to me was that they were saying back in the day, they often just didn't have a lot of resources, or they had lots of buses, so they would transport. There's a lot of chicken transport going on, so tons of people would just have baskets and baskets of chicken, live chickens on the buses. But When I went on there, I didn't see a lot of chickens. I saw one lady had a big basket that she wore in her head that had about 15 live chickens.
Wow.
Just a woven basket with a lid, and they all just sat there and relaxed in the basket.
Third world country.
Yeah, they're just third world country chickens just chilling. But, yeah, but so there I did that, and we had a lot of interaction with the kids. They had like an event. They had their Guatemalan Independence Day, which I can't remember the date of it, but there was a certain Independence Date that they had, and they had events, and the kids would all parade and dress up and play music and all this stuff. So at the school, we actually made a bunch of food, and it was great because, of course, it was pouring rain. And we had to walk on these muddy roads with pots of food, like basically on our heads. We put towels on our head and then the pot, hoping to spill on ourselves, and bring all this food to the school. And they had this whole big play and all this stuff at the school, and we fed all the kids, all the parents. Like, so often was different things.
Oh,
but
wow.
essentially it was that. And then Belize was 100 acres of land that this guy owned, and 50 of it was nature preserve. So he just owned it and protected it, and tried to keep poachers out and just let anything, natural plants and animals live there. And then the other 50, he had a bamboo farm, so he grew at least one of every type of bamboo in the world.
Oh, wow.
In that 50 acres. Some of them he had multiple, like an orchard, but some of them he had literally one of it, or two, or whatever. But that was his goal. Yeah, it was having every type of bamboo. And then he would build stuff with the bamboo, make palapas and furniture and art things and stuff like that. It was more of a hobby for him than an income, I think.
Yeah.
But essentially his goal was to make it a place where people could come and vacation. And there was a Spanish Creek right there you can go kayak through. He had canoes and kayaks, he had bicycles, he had all these things. So it was a great way for people to like vacation but not be super hotel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Still be in the jungle but a little more comfortable for those people that don't actually want to go camp or go rugged. But that was his ultimate goal. But even there, so we were helping maintain the palapas. They had a farm, they had a cow, chickens, geese, goats, horses. We would maintain the horse trail. We would take care of the animals, plant bamboo trees, pull weeds in the bamboo nursery. And then also there was a local school there, and so we had a bunch of fruit growing on the property, so we would make fruit juice and just chop up fruit and take it to the kids' school and give it to them.
In Belize?
Yeah.
It's all English speaking there, huh?
Belize, they speak English, but they use Elizabethan money, which is half of ours, or we're double theirs. So one Elizabethan dollar is $2 US.
Yeah.
They speak English there, but there's also a heavy Creole presence there. They have it. It's called the Garfoon culture, which are the African slaves that were brought over. They brought a bunch of African slaves and Chinese slaves to Belize in like the 1700s, and then they gained their freedom, but a lot of them were still there. So they still have. It's crazy. It's very tropical, what you'd think of like Jamaica kind of style.
Yeah.
You know, white sands, aqua water,
scuba
palm
divers,
trees,
paradise,
scuba divers. Yeah, it's
fishermen's and scuba diving. Like, there's not much waves for surfing, but it's
but there's a bunch of, and then just whale sharks go out there and stuff. But there's a bunch of chow mein restaurants because of the Chinese population there, and then the African people there were from the Garfoon culture, so they're very specifically those group of people, and they actually do a bunch of drum circles and make arts and stuff that are traditional that they grew up with. But then also there's this Creole accent that's out there because the French and English basically battled for it for a long time. So there's that Creole accent, which from what Creole people told me, they can speak in a way that is English that you understand, that just sounds like an accent, and then there's a way for them to speak where you don't understand anything. And they showed that to me. They were like, let me say this to you. Now let me say it in Creole. Real Creole. And it was like a whole nother language. Wow. And then there's also a Mayan presence there, because from Guatemala's next to Belize, the Mayans, there's actually some temples and stuff into Belize. They were kind of creeping into there.
Did you check out the temples?
And I didn't see the ones in Belize, but I saw some in Guatemala.
What were they like?
That was amazing. They were, for me, someone who's been a massage therapist and also just very sensitive to energies of people. Being somewhere that was one of the oldest, actually probably the oldest human structures I've ever been around physically. and just touching the rocks and stones and looking at them and seeing these amazing, just huge structures from so long ago was like powerful to me.
Oh, yeah.
And especially they had areas too where they would sacrifice people. So to stand over this stone that that who knows, probably thousands of people have been sacrificed at these stones, and not to mention whatever anyone else was feeling that gathered for the sacrifice or whatever the thing was for. The harvest moon was out, and they were very into what's the word, astronomy.
Rituals and astronomy.
Yeah, like relating things to astronomical events and stuff. So it's like it was pretty crazy, and I definitely had Indiana Jones feeling moments where I wanted to just climb in and go find the gold statue.
What was it? You said there was bad parts of town or something. You ended up playing dice with some of the guys out there and like hanging out with them in the alley.
No, in Guatemala they had this card game, and I can't remember what it was called. Obviously, it was in Spanish.
Yeah.
But I was playing cards with them. It was like a gambling game, so I played that with them. And then in Belize, I played dominoes with a bunch of the guys. Yeah, it was a bunch of the local guys. And all the tourists, we were waiting for a boat ride to go to this other part of Belize. And a lot of Belize is weird because it's like a lot of the locals live very much in poverty. And then there's these mansions that people own that are from the U.S. or from Europe or Australia.
Swimming
mostly
pools
white people.
And just like...
And yeah, literally they have, 4 jet skis, a boat, maybe a yacht, their own dock, 5-story house, like literally giant, like what do you expect, P. Diddy to own or whatever, like no offense P. Diddy, but like giant mansions, like not even just, it's a pretty and it's nice house that you'd see in Hollywood Hills. No, it's like a mansion.
Not even humble.
Yeah, not even. Then you go down the road and it's a dirt road and the houses are made out of, tin and wood shacks. Like, it's crazy.
Well, how did you make all this happen? Like, how did you, like, going back, rewinding here, you're in California, you're saying, like, how did you fund, like, how did you really actually make this happen for people who would want to, like, travel and do shit that you've done? And how old were you?
I was 24.
24?
About when I went. And, I mean, doing that kind of thing is not that easy. I went for 2 months total for both. So, Guatemala a month, Belize a month, then I went home. I literally quit my job.
Yeah.
I basically told my job, I loved my job, and I was working in a health food store, restaurant. This is when I was at Mother's Market. And which I probably shouldn't name drop them, but basically, they're already like a health-oriented place, So they kind of are hippie-like people that are very into protecting the earth and people and helping out with, charities and all this kind of stuff. So they kind of had that mindset anyway, but I basically told them, look, I want to go do this. I'm doing this for 2 months. And with the WOOF program too, like they don't want you generally there for less than 3 weeks. So if you're going to even just go to one place, you got to plan minimum, you're going to be there around 3 weeks. Because a week or 2 is not good enough. They're going to train you how they need you to help them. And then by the time you're trained, you're going to leave. And so it's like they don't have time. They need you for a reason. It's not just for you to get a free vacation. You know what I mean? They actually need help. They need you to work. So you have to have that mindset that you're going to work. So you've got to be there at least 3 weeks to actually make a difference and help them. So I decided I'm going to do a month and a month in each place. That gives me time to have weekends off and see everything right. So I basically told my job, I was like, I don't want to lose my job. I love it here, but I need to do this. And I understand that 2 months is a long time.
Yeah.
If it's 3 weeks, maybe, depending on what your job is, you can get away with a 3-week vacation, quote unquote. But for me, it was like, they were like, yeah, we can't guarantee you a job back. But they said, reapply when you come back. And if we have something, we will squeeze you in somewhere because we love you and we like you a lot.
So you left a good impression and didn't burn your bridges?
Yes, but I did. It wasn't guaranteed. It wasn't. They couldn't guarantee anything, which I understand. They're a business. They have to run their business. So I took that risk of quitting my job. And prior to that, I had worked extra and saved a bunch of money for this trip to pay for my plane ticket and then to have extra money. But I was on a very tight budget.
No.
Yeah, I actually did end up calling. Pop. Pop helped me out at one point because I got ripped off by this tourism thing. They took like an extra $300 wouldn't refund it. And I just needed a little bit more money just to make sure. It literally was like my bus ride back to the airport and then checking my luggage in.
Wow. What
like
was the
that's
name
what
of
I
this
was
thing?
short. The ripoff?
Yeah.
I can't remember. It was some tourism, like, it was when I went to the ruins, actually.
Yeah.
It was like you're supposed to pay for a package. They buy your taxi ride, shuttle ride, all the way to the ruins, because it was like a day trip to get up there. So you go on this overnight bus that you sleep on, all the way up to the ruins, and then there's a hotel on the premises, because it's in like a national park area. It covers your pass for the national park, your hotel, your pass to go to the ruins, and then everything going back. Well, it didn't include anything going back. So then we had to pay last minute in the middle of a national park in the middle of nowhere for this taxi that just
Ripped
charged
you guys
us.
off.
Yeah.
The old slipperoonie.
And then another bus, and like we had to take like 4 buses
Yeah.
instead of the one overnight bus, and there was nothing we could do about it because we were already out there. Like the agency that we went through is in a whole nother
Bastards.
city. Yeah, and we even tried to go back to them with one of the ladies that we worked with that was Guatemalan, and she was yelling at him. I could not understand what she was
Patriot
saying.
cabronis.
Yeah, and but they didn't. They just hands in the air.
Whatever.
No. So that's a big thing, and especially in a third world country, is there's not a lot of paperwork trail, and you try to getting your money back for stuff. Good luck.
But what happened here? Did you end up getting your job back when you came back, or no?
Yeah, so when I came back, they did have a position, and I was able to get a job right away. But it was honestly like pretty lucky.
It was lucky.
Yeah, and I mean at the time I was with a boyfriend, and we were living together. So I saved up a little extra money to give him towards rent, but he also covered the bills while I was gone.
Oh.
So that I had a place to come home to.
You had a
I
place
had
to
my
come
car
home, yeah.
stored, all my stuff, you know what I mean? And
You had your car stored?
yeah, well, I
was
mean,
at
like,
your
it was at our
place,
place. Like, it's like I had somewhere to put everything.
So that helped out a lot.
Yeah, so that was a big thing. So, I mean, that was a big part of it. But, yeah, you got to just plan for everything. And then there was also my bills while I was away, my cell phone bill, my credit card bill, whatever. You got school bills, you got anything, child support,
you pre-planned all this stuff in advance and just had that money, and
calculated
then you were able
it all.
to go.
How much do I need a month without me being there? And then also calculating, okay, if I go off on the weekends and try to do tourist stuff costs money.
Yeah.
And then now that I've done that trip, I factor in, what if I get ripped off or robbed or something? It's like you can't be scared to travel, but you can get robbed in your home city,
Oh, yeah, anywhere.
going out. So it's like you got to just expect some bad things might happen. I might lose my money. I get the wrong change back, especially with the money exchange and different types of money. It's hard to keep track of, are they giving me the right change when you're not familiar with that type of money.
Oh, yeah, I never thought of that.
Like quetzales in Guatemala is $7.50. At least at the time, it fluctuates, but $7.50 in U.S. money. So when you're getting change, it's like, I look at stuff and it's like 50 quetzales. That's expensive for one plate of food. But then once you calculate it, it's like, oh no, that's not even a lot at all.
Yeah.
In U.S. dollars, So it's like, and then you buy something, then they give you your change, and then when you go across a border, they change out your money, and it's like trying to make sure that it's right. Like, you gotta kind of just hope, you know what I mean? You sit there and count things. They don't give you time either to count it and be like, excuse me, you owe me $3 more. Like, no, they're just like, here's your money, go.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's a little bit of faith you gotta have in there, basically, to like do it. But my big thing is research as much as you can, the language.
Yeah.
I'd also I tried to be cool and not get like a tour guide book, tourist book, to be walking around going, what? But I went to a hostel in Guatemala, and this guy at the hostel gave me this book, and it's a book about Central America, and it goes into the history of the different countries. It goes into maps, lists of hostels and hotels, buses and their schedules, restaurants, literally everything. And I mean, it was an older book, so some of it's outdated, but especially if you're in a third world country, stuff doesn't change that much.
Yeah.
Most of the hostels I went to were still there, and everything was accurate.
Most places are like 10, 20 years behind, huh?
Yeah.
Like when you go there.
Well, it's like they don't
now.
develop like in the U.S. You go to Vegas. Every time you go to Vegas, even if you go twice a year, there's a new casino.
Yeah.
But down there, especially in the smaller towns, even if they're a tourist place, they don't change much, unless something burns down or there's a natural disaster. Like, they don't change the building. They don't rename it. They don't re-own it. It's the same owners for long times. Like Yeah. Not a lot of new businesses popping around.
Well, how did you figure in your budget when you left? Like, as far as when you were at your house, you had your cell phone, like you said, car insurance, your car. Like, what did you do to actually plan your budget? 'Cause I think a lot of people don't know how to do that. They're
Yeah.
like, what the fuck do I do? Grab a notepad and paper, or like, what exactly did you
I mean,
do?
I'm a big pad and paper and list person.
Mm-hmm.
Or, I mean, you know, people could do it on their phone. They have the little, like, notebook
Yeah.
apps on their phone. I found pen and paper was better also for me mentally to write it down, to physically write it down, and then to see it on
Yeah.
paper and have it be a physical thing that I could post up in my bedroom or next to my mirror, put it in my wallet, whatever.
Yeah.
It's a thing that's around, whereas I got to go in my phone and search. I'm not going to
Yeah.
look at it. I'm not going to pay attention to it. I'm going to ignore it. But a piece of paper is more solid to
Yeah.
me in the power of intention and all that kind of stuff. You know, it's more real. So for me, that particularly worked, but you could figure out for yourself. But yeah, I literally wrote down, okay, monthly bills. I pay this much for my phone. I pay this much for my credit card. I pay this much for whatever, you know, things that are a necessity that no matter what happens, no matter where I am, this is stuff I got to pay
Yeah.
for. I wrote each thing out, how much they are, the dates that they're due.
That's smart.
And then I factored in how much I wrote down, how much I make a month, after taxes and all that, my paychecks. You know, and that was months and months before actually going. So it was like, okay, this is how much I make a month. So then what I did is factor that in, calculate, you know, deduct what I have to pay besides my being frivolous and buying cigarettes, buying beer, going out to eat with my friends, buying some shots and beers at the bar, whatever, buying just a shirt. You know, I cut back on all that a ton to save money. But I also just calculated, you know, deduct what you have to pay from what you make, and then figure out where's a comfortable zone that I can start saving a certain amount, but also be able to have gas for work.
Yeah.
If I need to, I'm in a bind, get something, go get fast food for lunch while I'm at work because I didn't get the time to make something, or go, you know what I mean? Factor in that stuff. You have to eat, you have to have gas, all that stuff. And then I start saving money, and I've had trouble saving money in a few different ways. A lot of times I would do it, like when I was bartending a lot, I had lots of cash. So I would always save my $5 bills.
Yeah.
Anytime I had a $5 bill, I'd put it away. I would
Yeah.
refuse to spend it. I made myself
Yeah.
a rule. You're not allowed to ever spend a $5 bill. And then if I wanted to buy something that was, say, $5.50, $6, if I had a 5, I'm like, well, I'm not allowed to use that. So then I would take a 10 or a 20 and pay for it with that. And then in that change, I'd probably get another 5. So then I'd take that 5 and save it. But it was just
it's like a
hard.
little
It was
game.
harder to be like, I'm going to put $20.
Yeah.
My car's empty. I have no food at home. $20 is like, I can at least put a little bit of gas in the car. I can get a sandwich. I could get some peanut butter jelly and bread. You know what I mean? But a 5 is like, okay, that's a freaking Starbucks drink or a pack of cigarettes, or that's a fast food sandwich. That's not a lot. That's a couple scratching tickets, whatever your vices are. Like, it's not a lot. So I kept doing that. That helped a lot. And of course, when I could, I'd throw a 20, a 10, I'd throw some ones. I saved quarters. I saved all my change.
Yeah.
I just tried to save everything I could and spend less money. Like, every time I went anywhere and did anything, I'd think about it. Like, do I really need to go? Am I really that lazy? I got to go get fast food. Or do I really need to get a fancy, expensive coffee?
This is my Belize money.
I love my friends, but do I really need to buy us all a beer right now? I could just get myself a can of beer for $2. Or I'm just not even going to go out at all tonight, and I'm just going to stay home and relax. And, you know, things like that. And that's my hard one, too. I like spending money on other people, or like being nice and buy them lunch or something. And I'm like, I cut back on that, too. But people understood because I had a goal. And over time and working a lot, I picked up hours, worked a ton. I had enough to make it, but it was very tight. I would recommend saving as much extra, more than you need, as possible, so that you don't get in a bind.
Let me check the pot pie real quick.
Oh, yeah. Learning how to make oven pot pies, or not oven, non-oven pot pies. Barbecue grilled pot pies.
Oh yeah, that's how we
With
do
what is it? You put bricks,
I put fire bricks
fire bricks,
to lift it up.
and distribute the heat.
We make everything in that motherfucker.
If you're lucky, you'll learn something new every day.
What did you ever plan on when you came back from your trips? Did you have money planned to like for as far as like working capital, like to get your gas money and all that to go find a job and all that? But you said you got ripped
like
off,
when
so
I
you
came
came back and you didn't have shit. Huh?
Yeah.
Damn, how'd you get through
pretty
that?
Screwed.